never got a haircut.
I need a haircut. Hello, everyone.
Saludos.
Laura, I understand Italy is back closed down, huh? Ay, ay, ay. Too bad. Crazy, crazy. Oh, long time, I think. Welcome. So we just moved our clocks forward 1 hour. So I think it's still, you guys didn't, I know Spain didn't change their clocks. I doubt Italy, England, no. Robert, do you change your clocks? Will you change your clocks?
Yes, we do change the clocks. I think it's in a couple of weeks' time, though.
Okay, maybe same when Spain does it.
Yeah. So it'll be light until 7:30, which would be welcome after this winter.
Yeah. So I bought my ticket to Spain for good or for bad. So I should be there by the 29th. Right at Semana Santa, I think.
This month, in March.
Yeah.
Good.
I was going to wait for my vaccine, but just also because of some work-related things that I'm trying to organize here, it just seemed better go there for a couple months, come back, and then I'll know I'll be able to get it. Or maybe I'll be able to get it in Spain. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying, because I teach, sort of, this is what I think I'm doing here on Sundays, right? I could say I'm a teacher and I would have qualified here, but I didn't think of that till. Yeah, I teach once a week on Zoom. I need it.
Pushing it a little bit, maybe.
A little bit, yeah, that's what I thought too. But I'm very close. I'm only 1 year away. It's 65 and I'm 64. So
yeah.
But anyways, I'm gonna come to Spain and roll up Nacho on the 29th. I'll be there. Look out. Okay, well, we funny, all the people who voted to study the teachings of Analio aren't here. I guess there's a couple. They're coming late. It's been really interesting. I took this quite seriously, that to try to transmit the teachings as I understand Bhikkhu Analio, or how do they say it in Spanish? Analayo in Spanish, Analayo. But wow, that's harder. I found that much harder than to look at a lot of teachers and kind of synthesize it in my own words, because I'm just a student of his. I'm no expert. So I'm going to do my best and probably do a lot more reading so that I use his words rather than put in my own words. But I am going to lead. So the meditation we're now going to do, I'm going to lead the beginning in a way that he does, or as close as I can get to it. And maybe for the first 10 minutes, and then we'll go on in a more quiet, final 20 minutes. And just to introduce it real quickly, so Bhikkhu Analio is very, as best I could tell, he's very much about mindfulness of the body, an embodied presence. He's not, best I could tell, so much about the breath or about jhana, for instance, about focus, concentration. He's about an open, embodied awareness, mindfulness, of which the Satipatthanas, the foundations of mindfulness, the first one is about mindfulness of the body. And so then he gets there based on teachings that he believed were presented by the Buddha, by a body scan of the anatomical parts, the body parts, and about the traditional 4 elements of which the body can be, we can make a connection to those. And then the last one is about death, or about the cemeteries, or about the decomposition of the body. And he leads meditations of these 3 as in a way to bring us to mindfulness of the body. So what I thought I would do the first one, atomical parts. And the way he does it is a little different than how a lot of other people do it, maybe everybody. He just focuses on 3 things: skin, flesh, right, the meat, and then bones. So it's a little unusual, but since you guys voted for Analio, I thought I'd give you a specialty of Analio. And so we're going to do, for the first 10 minutes, we're going to do a body scan. Actually, we'll go down, up, and down of different body parts, focusing on first round skin, second round flesh, third round bones. Okay, so it's a little different, and we'll see how we like it, right? And then after the scan, then we'll go to, you can do whatever you want, but we'll go to more samatha, full body kind of mindfulness or awareness with less guidance. Okay. Set my little timer. Are there any preguntas, any questions, dudas? Okay. So here we go. So the way into this practice is much like what we do each Sunday, which is to find your body and in this case, one of the teachings of the Buddha is to know your posture. So let's find our sitting body, knowing that we are sitting. And one line Bhikkhu Analayo likes to use is we rest our awareness in our body like our body is resting on the cushion or the chair or the bed or what have you. So we want to rest our awareness in our body, knowing we're sitting, knowing there is a body. And then working with the atomical parts. So again, we're going to focus on the skin, the flesh or meat of the body, and the bones. Starting with the skin. So we start with the head. And this takes a little bit of conceptualizing, that's no problem, a little bit of imagining sometimes. But just imagine feeling the skin on your head. And then dropping to the neck and the throat. And then to your shoulders, both shoulders. Knowing there's skin on the shoulders. So just imagine or even feel your shoulders, and imagine you're feeling the skin. And our upper arms, there is skin. The lower arms, the hands, knowing there is skin. The torso, the upper front torso, the lower front torso, the back, upper back torso, lower back, knowing there is skin, feeling that skin if you can. And if you get lost, the mind wanders, no problem, just pick up wherever we are. So the hips, feeling the hips, knowing there is skin. The upper legs, the feet, knowing there is skin. Now we're going to do flesh, meat, starting with the feet, knowing there is flesh. Lower legs, upper legs, hips, knowing there is flesh. Lower back, upper back, lower front torso, the belly, upper front torso, the chest, knowing there is flesh. Just feeling it maybe at a deeper level than the skin. Hands, lower arms, upper arms, knowing there is flesh. Shoulders, neck, head, knowing there is flesh. And now bone, hueso. We start with our head, our skull, right? So imagine you can just feel the bone of your head, feel the skull, penetrate it with your mindfulness. Head, we know there is bone. Neck, you got the vertebrae in there. Bone. Shoulders, bone. Upper arms, lower arms, hands, fingers, knowing there are bones. Upper torso, lower torso, upper back, lower back, knowing there are bones. Hips, upper legs, lower legs, feet, knowing there are bones. You can do this again if you'd like. You can do it as fast as you want, as slow as you want. Just being aware of whether this was helpful for you to connect with your body to create that embodied awareness, that embodied presence, that whole body presence. So from now you can continue scanning if you'd like. You can use the whole body sitting, the body posture of sitting as an anchor, or if you really want to go back to a more narrow, focused samatha practice, such as with the breath, that's fine too. But maybe noticing, how was this scan for you? Do you feel more connected to your body? And there's no right or wrong answer. Whatever is true for you is true. If it's helpful, Analio recommends simple reminders. He's not opposed to concepts. He believes that they can help us in our practice. So just a reminder, there is a body, or there is breath. Just when it arises, or maybe when your mind gets distracted, a reminder. There is the body. There is the breath. There is awareness. remember we can start again at any time. Even if you've been on a long journey of thoughts, we can come back to the body. Body's always there for us, always in the present moment. There is a body. There is this body. So no matter where the mind might be right now, let's bring the attention, the awareness back to the body if it wasn't there. Infuse the body, fill the body with awareness if you can. Maybe noticing how the body feels right now, any sensations in the body that are new, different. And then to end our practice, let's come to the heart center, to the chest with our awareness, feeling that area. And thanking ourselves for our practice, for taking this time out this Sunday to nurture ourselves, care for ourselves in this way, come back to ourselves. And also recognizing that we do this not only for our own well-being, but the well-being of all. It's probably nothing better that I can think of that we could do to treat others better, to serve others. And then imagining, if you can, extending your kind, loving awareness out in all directions, including the people on this call, thanking them, and then just moving on to the whole universe. And when you hear the sound of the bell, just as always, being aware, being mindful, what arises in the mind, what arises in the body. Well, thank you very much. It's good to see some faces I haven't seen for a while. Lara and Alethea, good to see you. I miss seeing you all together, but maybe sometime soon. Got to keep these variants back. Gosh darn COVID, it's not cooperating. Anyways, I'm curious how the guidance was for you and whether anybody, Carlos liked it, sounds like, looks like. Yeah, whether anybody felt more connected to their body, that it was like that it helped with the transition into an embodied awareness. Or if there were any challenges. You know, it's funny for myself, I actually found it kind of easier to guide than it is for me to do it on my own. Por mi cuenta. For some reason, on my own, my mind wanders quite a bit when I try to do it, but guiding it seemed easier. So what the thought I had is maybe I'll have to guide it to myself next time. I'll say it out loud. But yeah, does anybody have a comment or want to say anything about it?
Yeah, I found it really good, really powerful. I think getting to do the scan 3 times, it just felt like you're getting deeper and deeper into it. Kind of so used to just kind of doing one wave of a body scan and going into the breath. But to go back, just felt like getting more and more connected with it. So I found it really, really useful. It helped with with the experience of the rest of the meditation as well. So,
nice.
Thanks.
Thank you, Damien. I'm very happy to hear that. Next week, we'll do the elements, which are 4 scans. So it might be even better. Oh, that's really good to hear, because that's exactly what I think it's intended for. And yeah, that's super. Okay, well, what I thought I would do is read a little bit from Bhikkhu Analayo's last book, or I think it's his last book, The Practical Guide to Meditation. And starting with, because the book is about mindfulness. It's about the 4 foundations of mindfulness, the Satipatthana. And he starts off with some interesting commentary about mindfulness, like, what is it? And I remember, for those of you who are on the call with Francisco, who is a devoted student of Analayo, I think Francisco ended it with kind of like, I'm not sure what it is. It's like this weird thing. So I thought we would go in a little bit on his discussion about what is mindfulness, and then a few of the other kind of discussions that I find interesting, like the place for concepts. So much of the time we believe, I believe, we believe that the idea is to let go of concepts and just have like a blank mind, right? Without any concepts. And Analayo, such as the scans that we did, he believes that in early Buddhism, and that's his gig, right? His gig is early Buddhism, like how possibly the Buddha taught it. They used concepts, and that concepts were useful right up until Nibbana. It isn't until you actually achieve Nibbana, until you achieve full liberation, that the concepts are completely gone. That they have a useful place all the way on the path. So hopefully we'll have time to look into that a little bit on his book. So what I will do is I'm going to go to share screen and then find Kindle. Here we are. Let's see how this starts. So this is the first chapter of the book, called Mindfulness. What I tried to do is I tried to highlight some things that at least resonated with me. So we start off with, and those are the ones I'll read for the most part. So he writes, the most crucial aspect of mindfulness practice is to stay in the present moment. I think we kind of know that. And the reason that I think he brings this up is that the word sati, I guess literally translated, means memory. And this fact that the title of this chapter, or this section here, is Mindfulness and Memory. And in there, this is 2 pages of kind of discussion about memory. And could mindfulness be about remembering the past? Could mindfulness originally have meant to be to improve your memory? What exactly does mindfulness, as we understand it, have to do with memory? And in the end, he kind of just concludes that maybe not much. It's about being in the present moment. So he writes Satipatthana. So that's sati being mindfulness, as how we translate it, mindfulness, but also kind of meaning memory when translated from Pali. And then the patthana, the foundations, the establishments. Satipatthana meditation is not about remembering something from the past, but about being fully in the present moment. So he seems pretty clear that it's about being in the present moment. Now he says something that I thought was rather interesting. After a little bit of discussion, he's talking about wholesome and unwholesome states. Now the Satipatthana is wholesome states. These are cultivating wholesome, healthy, you might say positive states of mind. But then he says that mindfulness itself is not necessarily wholesome. This kind of surprised me. Because like one of my teachers, James Barres, would say that mindfulness maybe is the most wholesome state, that it has the ability to transform unwholesome states into wholesome ones and enhance wholesome states. And so to me, that would be pretty wholesome. But, Analayo takes the positions he takes and believes the things he believes. And this is what he said. It's not necessarily wholesome. But he says, when mindfulness is cultivated in the form of the four Satipatthanas, which, just quick review, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings or feeling tone, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, mindful of sankharas, of the mind, of thoughts, of beliefs, of tendencies, of any sort of habits of the mind, and then mindful of the dhammas, the teachings, the lists, the rules, the law, those four things. When mindfulness is cultivated in the form of Satipatthanas, then such practice does indeed become definitely wholesome. So even this was sort of interesting to me. It's like on its own, maybe it's neutral, kind of like awareness. Awareness is neutral, doesn't really take positions or whatever. But then when it's applied to these wholesome practice, it becomes wholesome. And if you are one who likes intellectual thinking, and likes to analyze things and to look at things from different angles and so forth, Analayo is great, because he really, this is what he does 24/7. He's just either meditating or writing or contemplating or, so he comes up with some stuff that are rather interesting, I find. Okay, again, I'm just going on what is happening right now. Okay, so this is where I think this is kind of the key, right? Is, okay, if mindfulness in and of itself is not necessarily wholesome, well, then what good is it, right? So we want to cultivate it. We want to cultivate this mindfulness using the four Satipatthanas, and then we will create the wholesome states of mind that hopefully we're looking for. So mindfulness has to be established, he writes. It is not just a quality that is present anyway in any type of experience. This marks the difference between mindfulness and consciousness. Now, for some of you, this might, they'll say, te aburra. But for me, I do find this kind of interesting. So we have consciousness that is always present. We're not always aware of it, but it's always present. It's one of the five aggregates. Other practices like Vedanta and so forth talk about how consciousness is everywhere and infinitely, always. So you have consciousness, but mindfulness is not consciousness. They are two different things. So it's not awareness. Consciousness is one of the five aggregates, is a continuously present process of knowing. It doesn't mean that it is permanent. It only means that is a changing flow of moments of being conscious that is continuously present. It gets a little kind of wordy, but whether we are mindful of a meditation object or caught up in a dream or a fantasy, the flow of consciousness is always there. And he reminds us, this does not apply to mindfulness. And maybe that's why the early English used the word mindful to translate sati, because of that distinction between consciousness or awareness and paying attention with a certain quality of mind. Let's see if this will address that. This might be a little more than you need to know. I don't know, but I kind of like this. Let's see. Okay. It's funny, I read this book mostly in my tablet, and sometimes it shows what I highlighted. I don't know, maybe it has to sync. Sometimes it doesn't, but although mindfulness requires cultivation, being a quality that needs to be established, okay, that's the patana part, such cultivation is not a forceful matter. This is important. Here it can be useful to take into consideration that the word sati in the Pali language is feminine. I don't know if this is sexist or not to say this, but to think of it as a feminine quality, a receptive quality. Okay, and that's maybe that initial thing I said, which I took from him, that we rest the awareness in the body like the body rests on the cushion. Rest, relax, right? It's receptive, it's soft, it's not hard, it's not focused. That is much more masculine, right? It's much more receptive. He writes, in this way, sati can be understood as receptively assimilating with the potential of giving birth. I thought that was kind of interesting, to new perspectives. And he really does talk about this too, about how with mindfulness and an open body awareness, we become, let's say, less dogmatic. We become less rigid in our thinking. We become less identified with our beliefs and thoughts. These are all causes of suffering when we do these. And this is a path to the end of suffering. And he is showing us here how mindfulness, and the Buddha said this too, mindfulness alone can get us there, that mindfulness in this receptive, open way will break the clinging, right? The tanha, the grasping of these various defilements that cause us to suffer. And to think of it, again, it's a concept, but to think of it as a feminine energy, I think is clever. I like it. Let's see. It's a good friend, he writes. Sati is always there. She is ready to accompany us throughout the rest of the day, encouraging us to stay receptive and open, soft and understanding. She never gets upset when we happen to forget about her. This is great, right? Mindfulness is always there. You might ignore her for days even, but when you want her, boom, she's there. She never gets upset when we happen to forget about her. As soon as we remember her, she is right there to be with us again. That's so sweet. Huh? Visualizing the practice. Okay, I'll just read this last part here. Visualizing the practice in terms of a coming back to the presence of a good friend helps to avoid mistaking sati for a forceful type of hyper-attentiveness. See this, I don't know about in Spain or in England or in Ireland but wherever you might, Italy, wherever you might be. But in America, focus meant you had to drill down, right? You had to really scrunch your face and concentrate. And that is not what mindfulness is. It's almost like we have to unlearn that. Now we can't get too lazy about it, right? Because then you just fall asleep or whatever. But it's very soft, it's very open, it's very receptive. It is not a hyper-attentiveness that requires strained effort. No. Instead, being in her presence carries the flavors of an open receptivity and a soft alertness to whatever is taking place. I'll just stop there for the moment in case there's anybody that wants to say anything. Maybe you have already noticed how there are a lot of concepts here. And in the next section, he talks about concepts. But they can be very useful, right? We have this brain that we have, for good and for bad, but we can use it for good. We can hold these concepts, like the idea that mindfulness is a feminine energy, that she's a good friend, these types of things. These can be very helpful. So it doesn't mean not thinking, it's thinking in a wholesome way, right? So even during our practice, we can remind ourselves again and again with words, if that works for you, or visualizations, if you're more spatially visual like that. And then it brings us back to the present moment again and again. So I'll just stop there for a moment. Does anybody want to add anything, say anything, have any question? Is this too wordy or is it okay? Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a lot of words. It's a lot of words. Yes, Lara, go ahead. You want to say something?
Yeah, it's a reflection. I don't even know if it's correct or not, but I was thinking that perhaps that focus in me is more, when I make an effort, is more intellectual. And in mindfulness, I think that I also apply senses. I apply, there's other aspects, other sides of being present that is not only with my mind.
Yes.
Maybe that's a difference as well.
Yes, I think that's very, very accurate. And we do generally associate like the thinking, the analyzing, that kind of stuff is more of a masculine energy. And so, yeah, I guess I would say we're looking for a balance, right? We don't want to go too much in one direction or the other. And I suspect that after a while, the thinking part does fall away. You don't need it. It may get us going. We may need that lift, that help to get us moving. But once you're able, it sounds like, Lara, you have a very established practice. And so you don't need it so much. And that's wonderful. And we could stay with the body. And as we go on in this book, you will see it is about being in the body. It's about being with sensations. It's not about being with thoughts. It's not about being with these concepts necessarily, but they do have a place, especially at the beginning. Eventually, it just kind of goes on its own, right? We just find that rhythm, and it just sort of goes on. It's almost effortless. That happens kind of down the way. Thank you. Here, maybe what I'll do in a couple minutes here is we'll look a little bit at what he has to say about concepts. Whoops. Uh-oh, what'd I do? Sorry about that. There we go. Okay. So he says, mindfulness can coexist with the employment of concepts. So it is kind of interesting, the feminine can coexist with the masculine. Sometimes probably wishes that the masculine wasn't there, but we can coexist. And he writes, in fact, the instructions in the Satipatthana Sutta, whose function is precisely to foster the establishment of mindfulness, clearly encouraging the wise use of concepts. So he goes to the original teachings of the Buddha, and he argues that it encourages the wise, sabiduria, sabio, use of concepts. He says, at times the discourse presents these concepts in quotation marks, making it clear that some form of mental verbalization is meant. He understands this to refer to the input provided by the quality of clearly knowing, sampajana, in relation to what has become evident through well-established mindfulness. Okay, so this is as we hear, especially in the Mahayana tradition, but in Theravada as well. The Buddhist practice or the Buddhist path is about compassion and it's about wisdom. This wisdom aspect, of course, is going to be filled with lots of concepts, lots of ideas, right? And he's arguing here that the wisdom aspect also is applicable with mindfulness. We need both. We need the awareness and we need the wisdom. The forward, I'm reading the part that it's in yellow here. The forward thrust of Satipatthana towards liberation does not require keeping the mind free from concepts. The main task is to cultivate a free mind even in the presence of concepts. Let's see, I think I can drop to the bottom here. Well, I'll read a little bit more. The path to such freedom is based on the skillful use of certain concepts, mainly those that trigger insight. Right? By the way, I do have, I'm going to change here just for a second. I do have something from the course I'm taking. It's in Spanish, but very brief. I think it's worth showing you. So, as many of you know, Vipassana is the practice of what we call in English insight. And so these in this class, they just pointed out the Spanish translation, vision cabal, vision penetrante, and they included insight. I guess insight is going to become a new Spanish word. We're going to adopt it, right? And so then they broke the word Vipassana down in the V in completamente or a través de, and then pasana visión. So to have complete vision or to have true vision, penetrating vision. This is Vipassana. And this is the course I'm taking that's based on Nalio's teachings. So let's see, got one more. I want to go one more back just for one more second to this. So the path to such freedom is based on the skillful use of certain concepts, namely those that trigger insight, vipassana. In other words, our attitude towards concepts and thoughts is best informed by the distinction between unwholesome and wholesome types. Although we need to be aware of confusing actual practice with just thinking about the practice, right? So we can't just sit here and go, okay, what is meditation about? Oh, I think it's about sitting. And no, you can't do that. We need to be aware of confusing actual practice with just thinking about the practice. Wholesome thoughts and concepts can serve as a tool for progress in the form of clearly knowing, which is an integral dimension of Satipatthana meditation. Clearly knowing, that's the Vipassana part, okay? That's what comes out of this. Okay, I think that was lots of words, so I'm going to stop right there. And hopefully over the next couple Sundays, it'll kind of come together and we will have insight, right? We'll have Kabal. What's the Kabal one? Kabal Vision or something? Vision Kabal. Yeah. Into how these come together, the mindfulness, the establishment of mindfulness, and the Vipassana, the deep knowing. Okay, is there any comments, questions? I might try to loosen it up because it's a lot of words. Yeah, maybe, well, anyways, I'll think about it a little bit more, but maybe a little. Well, you know what they do in the class, which could be worth doing too. Maybe we'll do a little poll. Is they break us up into small groups for a while, and this is also what Analio does in all his retreats. They're kind of almost like workshops. Is that you'll spend time in little groups and you'll talk about it and stuff. And I don't know if we want to get so workshopy in these Sunday meditations. Maybe we'll do a little poll. How many people would like to take like 10 minutes to break into small groups and talk about this subject, not about COVID, but the weather or what you're going to do on your next travel, but about this, or continue just as we have been. People want to break into small groups maybe next week? No, Carlos says no. Laura says yes.
If there are questions to consider, just to give
We have a couple more, a little more no's, I guess, than yeses. Okay. Maybe what we'll do, you guys, if you want to stick around afterwards, you can talk about it. Okay. Does anyone though have any comment or anything they'd like to say? Any questions? Any doubts? No? Okay, well, we have a couple more minutes. I feel like I've already kind of dug in so much to the words. I don't know if I want to.
pretty dense.
It was dense, yeah. I don't know if you use denso. It's maybe you use that for writing, like some books and stuff. Some topics are dense. Ooh, this one's very dense. It's like you gotta, and here's an irony. I see an irony here. He advises us to be soft and receptive and open, that is mindfulness, right? But yet he writes just the opposite, so dense, so hard, so compact. So it's almost interesting. We have to be very mindful about reading his stuff because you just got to kind of parse it apart. Anyways, okay. Just on the transition to the logistics, I'm so excited. I'm going to come back for at least 6 weeks. I hope to stay. I'm not quite finished with what I got to do here, and so Nacho, we're going to get Saladana, we're going to get it streaming. We're going to get online, and then, haven't quite figured out exactly, like we need a bigger screen, but we'll be able to transmit hopefully from there. And then my idea is to there, right? So people, if it's safe and no one's going to get sick, maybe 10 people can get together and watch a teacher, Chema teaching from his house, but they'll be there in the Saladana. That's what I hope to accomplish when I come. So hopefully we'll get that figured out. Okay, well, there's no comments or questions. Why don't we do a little metta practice? And by the way, Analio is very big on metta. He does retreats, or has done retreats that bring the two together, mindfulness and metta. Yeah, let's find a comfortable posture. I'm just going to do the way that I know, but I will study how he does it and introduce that at some point. I have done it with him, but I don't have it memorized. Anyways, let's start in our bodies, get back into our bodies, especially after all those dense words. Could even do a little body scan of skin, flesh, and bones. Then going to the heart center, the heart space. Let's start with ourselves, offering goodwill, loving kindness, metta to ourself. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. May I live with ease. Just feeling how that is in the body. And if ever a loving kindness, goodwill, sensation, emotion arises in the body, just embrace that. Welcome that. So now let's continue with those who are still suffering, working, risking their lives on the front lines of the battle against COVID. So many people affected by it, hurt by it, even killed by it. So just imagine those people who are at risk, go to work, nurses and doctors and technicians, and even just regular dependientes in various stores, delivery people. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And now let's bring to mind what's often called a difficult person. Somebody where maybe you have a little hurt, maybe they said or did or didn't do or didn't say something, didn't meet our expectations, we have a little resentment towards them. Bring this being to mind. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And finally, all beings in all directions, without exception, may all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And finally, let's dedicate our practice, share our practice, the teachings, not only of the Buddha, but Analayo. Share our Buddha nature and our Sangha, our community, with all beings. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence, discrimination, racism, and free from coronavirus. And may all beings find their path, find their establishments, their foundations towards the end of suffering, towards freedom, towards peace. May all beings be free. Well, thank you again for being here. So lovely to see you, and such a privilege and a joy to do this. Oh, and I see Nuria has joined us. If you'd like to turn your mic on and say hello to everybody, feel free. And then whoever's still around in a couple minutes, we will form some small groups. Oh, Nuria can't speak without no.
Earphones.
Oh,
Amazing
earphone.
retreat with Nacho. Thank you, thank you,
Oh,
thank you.
nice. Oh, Nacho, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys had a good retreat. That's so nice. Mhm.
Good enough, maybe.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. I hope you all have a good week this week. Thanks very much, Jim.
Thank you, Robert. Are you close to being able to get